Good afternoon, everyone. Wherever you are, welcome to Badan Warisan Malaysia and Think City's latest webinar in our talk series. I'm the moderator for today. My name is Anand Krishnan. I'm a professional architect in private practice and a council member of Badan Warisan Malaysia. Badan Warisan Malaysia is Malaysia's leading NGO on built heritage. We have been in existence for over 25 years. We invite you to check us out on our webpage. We also invite those who are not already a member to join us to help us with our efforts with our nation's built heritage. I'll give you more details at the end of the talk. Today's talk is Little India of Penang. Many cities in the world, as you may know, have unique enclaves for various communities. There's Chinatowns in so many cities, Koreatown in Los Angeles, and there are Little Indias in Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Klang, and Penang. Our speaker this afternoon is Preveena Balakrishnan. Preveena received her first degree in accounting and was a practicing accountant before switching her career to the heritage and cultural field. She started her research at the Penang Heritage Trust and went on to do her MBA. Her MBA thesis focused on the sustainability of traditional trade within Georgetown, Penang. She's currently a PhD research scholar at University Science Malaysia in Penang and contributes to Penang Monthly, mainly on Indian heritage and history. She has made numerous oral history recordings of World War II experiences, traditional food, traditional trade, changes to the transportation system, use of spaces, and of course, communities. All this work has led to the creation of a wide oral history collection in the Tamil language. Before we begin, please note that the talk will go on for about 40 minutes or so. After that, we will have a question and answer session. If you have any questions, please forward them to me using the chat mode. It's on the right side of your screen. Don't forget to state your name and where you're coming from. I will moderate these questions and will ask these questions on your behalf. If you have any connection issues with webinar, just reload it. Well, we are about to begin. I hope you've got your preferred beverage of choice next to you and be ready for an hour of heritage talk. So without further ado, please welcome Preveena Balakrishnan. Hi, Preveena. How are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm good. How are you?
All ready?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, it's all yours.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, everybody. I hope everyone's doing good. I'll begin the talk. Okay, Little India of Penang. As his own charm, Little India being a focal point of pride and identity, multiple diverse group. It's not only a port city where you saw ships, it's a lot of exchange of people that took place, a lot of exchange of culture, diversity, created a different kind of culture. So Little India has its own uniqueness, which we will be seeing during this talk. So before the modern day migrations, ports largely, Malaya had a very strong connection with India. Ports like ancient ports like Kavaripupatnam, Mahabalipuram, Nagapatnam, Corale, and Angalakulam were important connectors. So these ports actually were very much to the Hindu kingdoms and culture. So we can see the relationship of Malaya and India in terms of Hindu kingdoms and culture could be related to Mount Suguntang Mahameru, the godly kings of Malacca, and Malay states could be related. You know, the influence and adaptations of Hinduism to the local culture and practice. So basically, the Malays over here actually adapted to Hinduism one point of time. So that was before the modern day migrations, the Kesultanan Melayu. Now The current day migration is where during the British during the British Raj period. So they had like ports like Madras, Calcutta, and Bombay. Madras was the first port for them to be established. So a lot of the cities, a lot of settlements in Madras happened in 1639. Secondly was Bombay. Bombay was established, later to that, around 1670s, because Bombay is actually an interesting piece. I always find it interesting because King Charles got it as a dowry from his wife, from the King Poland. So in 1667, the Bombay was transferred to East India Company. So it's a dowry gift from King of Portugal, to King Charles. And Calcutta was the largest port which they established in 1619. So which is one of the latest but the largest. So these three ports actually had a lot of influence to the port in Penang, especially Little India. So there were a lot of ships, a lot of ships that were coming from Madras, Calcutta, and Bombay to Little India. The stream ports like Kadikal, Karana, Nagur, Nagapattinam, Mahabalipuram, Puerto Novo, Visakhapatnam actually were important to transfer, later ports that came in, important to transfer the indentured laborers. So they played a crucial role in bringing in the laborers for the British, for them to work for the British. Especially in the estates. So these were largely important ports that actually played a vital role in translating the indentured labor. Coming and going of ships. So we can see this is the ship of first Jaladurga, well, actually at Visakhapatnam. So this was shared by the VPT India. So this picture is amazing because a beginning of stream ships to go to Little India. So 1993 embarks an important year for all the steamships to go into Little India port, the port located in Penang, which directly influenced the development of Little India. Next would be, they had Jaladurga, Jalagopa, Rajula, and MV Sidambaram. So all this Jaladurga, Jalagopal, and also SS Rajula were the British India Steam Navigation Company. They were under the British Steel India Navigation Company. State of Madras and MV Chindavaram were actually under the Eastern Shipping Corporation of Malaysia. So both of them, so they were rivals actually. So Rajula's strong rival was State of Madras. So Rajula had 5,000 deck passengers. So one of the largest. So the amount of people that they could transfer was a lot. So it really broke a lot of what do we call it? A lot of shillings where people can travel. A lot of people could travel in the ship. Last time was a smaller ships. Now it's a bigger ship. So 5,000 deck passengers. But the journey was 21 days journey. It's some claims it to be very, very dirty. Some claims it to be they could not stand the 21 days journey with the seasick. Some barely could not take the stress. Some even have jumped up from the ship because they could not handle the stress. So the basically this ship had three classes, which is first class, second class, and third class. The coming and going of ships. So these are the images of SS Rajula. So there were a lot of people, you know. I'm just sharing you an image on this, how it would have looked like. So here is MV Chidambaram's. It was a ticket. This is shared by one of the owners of the Penang Heritage Museum, Prakash and Punita. This is the Chidambaram, the tickets that they had, a sample of it. And when they board on the ships, they had to go to Pulau Georgia, was a quarantine center. So they had like 14 days to be there. So you can see in the pictures, largely were the Indian labels were there. So Pulau Georgia was a very crucial point. So Pulau Georgia is where it was a place where an audio, a point where everybody would meet. So before they go to different places of Penang. So a lot of convicts, a lot of people actually who came here had a meeting point. So this place actually is very important in the history when it comes to the formation of the secret society. So people get to meet here, you know, get to talk here, because there were a lot of convicts were transported here. So the initial meeting place actually took here. A lot of conversation would happened here. So before they were released, you know, into the island. So Little India, what we see here is this, the small, tiny, you know, Sophia place, it is here. What it is not is, what we cannot see is the Little India around this place. Chew Jetty, beach streets, these areas which I have actually circled. So these are the enclaves which had a wider wider how do you call it, a wider people living around this here. What we see here currently is only at the Little India highlighted area. What we cannot see, what is no more there, is all these tiny little cycles. So moving on here. So this is Masjid Bengali and Muslim Persatuan Kadernalo. So I'm going back to my slides here. So this Masjid Bengali is located at Litsley, okay, and Kadernalo is located as around the Chaurasta area, around near to the Transfer Road and also the Chaurasta area. So these are the places that you have. So this Masjid Bengali is not directly located at Little India, but along the outskirt of Little India. But they have a significant contributions to the Little India development. For example, Masjid Bengali largely had people from Bengal. So they were largely the sepoys, the people who worked in the military defense area for the Francis Light and also the British Light. So these were actually largely were the Muslims located here. And Cardinalo is actually a lot of people who were Cardinalo were actually the women. The Cardinalo women actually contribute a lot to the food industry and the economic development of people of the Little India, especially in the area of food. They are the one who were actually the women in the Cardinalo society. Actually, they are very well known for their pounding their spices, doing. So they actually provide the spices for the for this nasi kandar business, for this mee gorengs, all this soup business they have. So they were actually the distributor of the pounded spices. So they not only that they do that, they also have, according to Koo Salma, they also did microfinancing options to those men who comes from India to start a business. Basically when they come from India, they don't have any money to start the business. So what these people would do is, these men would do is, they will borrow money, and then they will buy the spices from these women to have it, and then they will start the business. As the business goes well, they try to pay back. After that, these women also would get continuous business for the spices for these people. So there's a lot of sustainability. We can see a lot of business sustainability there. And looks like Sama said that they are the first one who started the microcredit system in Malaysia. So these are the areas, even though they are outskirts of Little India, what we see, but they contributed a lot to the development of Little India now and previously. Okay. So this is a very interesting picture of when I saw it. When I first saw it as an accountant, I did not understand it. I was like looking, why these people? Who are these people? What is the social layer of it? Why they had so many people? It gave me. I had so much of questions inside me. So as I stepped into culture and heritage, I could understand who were these people are, the social layer, why they were brought in. So this particular caption captured me a lot. It brought me a lot of attention. We want Indians at indentured labors, not as free men. So many of us, we can see that British Raj has brought in a lot of convicts to people, to Malaya, actually to develop the buildings, the roads, the railway department, to clear up the jungles, to build houses. The convicts were also Chinese, and from Hong Kong, and also largely the convicts that they brought in from the records are the Bengalis convicts, the Bengal, the Punjabis. So they were the largely convicts that they brought in earlier. So what they had, these convicts, so what they had was 7 years serve time. They had two classifications of how long they need to serve the prison. One was 7 years, another was lifetime prison. So what Mayor James Lowes would have called the street settlements was the Sydney of convicts settlements of India. So from here we can see that a lot of convicts were actually contributed to the settlements. So they were actually a cheap labor for the British to build up their colony. So you can see that they were actually cheap laborers for the British. And they had 6 classes of convicts. The sixth class was old women and men. The 5th class was violent prisoners. The 4th one was working in light irons. 3rd one was the one converted from the 4th class to the 3rd class. So they will not be working with light irons. But they received a small wage, monthly wage. The 2nd class would be from the one converted to the 3rd class to the 2nd class. So they got the chance to be petty officers or peons. The first one was, they called it leave for the men, where they converted from the 2nd class to be the 1st class when they had a good behavior. But these convicts were required to report once a month to the British administration. So the convicts actually did build a lot of structures in Penang largely. And we can see they were actually a crucial builder for Penang's buildings and also roads especially. Okay, moving on to trades in Little India. So the trades in Little India, what we can see is now is a lot of restaurants, a lot of food industry, a lot of sari shops. But actually Little India was built on a lot of entrepot trade items like betel nuts, betel oils, copra, pulses, spice, tin ore. Tin ore is actually they had a smelting in Dato Kramat. So they would actually export the tin ore from the Penang port. So they have used a lot of manpower, especially the Indians. And in order to be to work as this to work in this industry, you actually required a certain kind of physical attributes or physical body shape, like, you know, quite well built, strong, so that you can carry all this commodity, you know, all this. So it was not everybody could get the job. So there was a need for physical a physical requirement, or there was a need of like, you know, a requirement of how you should look like. So a lot of if you see, a lot of buildings now have built. So there were times that after the bombing have taken place, there were a lot of empty places where they used to dry this copra, pulses, spices, all these bitter nuts. They used to have a lot of empty land in Little India once upon a time. So my father used to tell, this is where they used to dry bitter nuts. This is where they used to dry copra. So there was a lot of areas which now we see are full of buildings, but there were a lot of empty spaces by then. We can see where they used it to dry all these commodities. Okay, press is something that we hardly now we don't have Jodi Press anymore. It was closed down last year. So press trade, if you see the previous one, this was the lower end workers who are working over there. But if you look at press, they say that upper class Indians, largely the Tamils, and the Tamil Christians who were dominating the publishing industry actually. So what do you mean by upper class Indians? So there were people who migrated from India who were a bit more educated, you know, who were largely the convicts, and also people who migrated from India. They were actually, some of them were well educated. So this gave an opportunity for the printing of newspapers to boom. So the first newspaper in Penang was in 1887 called Vijaya Kedaram. It was, the publisher was SPSK Kadir Saib. He also have produced a Malay newspaper called Tanjung Penggeri. Dr. Trachels have done quite a wide research on Tamil papers in Malaysia, say that after the book registration ordinance, which took effect on 1st January 1887, there was a requirement for all the newspapers and publications to be registered. So what happened was they had to send each newspaper have to send 3 copies of the newspapers or the publication. 1 copy will be sent to London. It's a kind of control that they had, what news to be released and what not to be released. And other copies were kept in local libraries like London British Library and also National Library in Singapore. So during that time, they had about there were 34 Tamil publications, 34 for the community who have migrated to Penang, largely in the Strait settlements, to have 34 publications between 1887 to 1914. And 9 was from Penang. We can largely see a lot of groups who were educated. They were literate and they knew how to read. The groups that migrate, we cannot say those who are migrated were uneducated. They largely had fair, good education before they went during migration time. Also noted that this publication had played an important role for the intercaste marriages, where they had the All Malaya Tamil Conference in Penang to actually educate people to have intercaste marriages and widow marriages. When you come to Indian society, largely Indians, you cannot avoid the caste. And widow has seen as a burden in the society. But this kind of press and publication have actually led for reformation. So where they had to say that, okay, let's accept intercaste marriages and widow remarriages. So they really broke a lot of norm in the society, largely in the Tamil society. Next, mills. So a part of the ladies like would pound spices in around Charleston areas. We also start getting mills. So early mills was Alagapas and Kalispuri mills. Currently, we only have Kalispuri mills operating, and Alagapa mills, they sell in their ready-made spices. This is because as the men who migrated from India, they start bringing in family. There were a lot of food eatery stalls will start opening. So due to that, so they required a lot of spices. So this has actually have helped the establishment of mills in Penang. Textiles. So we can see that Gujaratis and the Sindhis were the king of textiles. So lately, slowly, we were talking later, the Sindhis and Gujaratis have moved away from the business. We had a lot of Indians, the Tamil Southern Indian, taking over the business. So textile business, SKS, Sinamuthu Silk Store, was one of the pioneers that they had in Bishop Street. So what is unique about this silk store personally is they had a lot of Japanese silk material. This Japanese silk was largely a competition to the silk, and other sari materials were brought in from India. They were lighter, the colors were more attractive. So when they introduced it, everybody rushed for Japanese silk. So Japanese silk, you can't get it in India, but you only can get it in Penang. So they were large, so it was a hit, everybody wanted to wear Japanese silk. And anytime you go to Penang, they will say, can you get me a Japanese silk? So Japanese silk was one of the biggest hit during that point of time. And Sinamuthu Silk Store also were one of the shop that actually specialized in lace. They bring it from UK, they sell it out here. So this was one of the earliest shop of the Tamils who ventured into textile business. And Maya Silk Store is actually a very unique store. This is the owner's son. It was started in Jual Mora. So he started his business in Jual Mora in Penang. There was a Jual Mora center right opposite along Penang Road. They sold a lot of textiles, a lot of like multicultural things from the Malay, from the Chinese. So it was like one-stop center back then. So they had their first shop there. And after that, they moved to Little India. So these were the two shops that actually pioneered the sales business, the sari business in Little India. So other shops that we will see, trades that we can see in Little India, it's Ottukade. Largely, they are the government's policy is not allowing for new Ottukade. Ottukade means small kade, or it's also known as Petti Kade, which means Petti means small in Tamil. It's a small shop where you have many things. So if you look at the pictures here, we can see like it's a compact, it's actually a 7-Eleven model that we have created long time before, and now it's called at 7-Eleven. So what is sold here is very interesting. They have had mengkuang mats, jama kalam, which means the thick cotton sheets. You know, when you are, so why is the thick cotton sheets? When they are traveling from Penang to India, they will get all these things to India. So some of these things are not available in India, so they will normally buy it here. So some of the things that you will see here would be thick cotton sheet, um, pillows, tins of biscuits. They will have Milos, and then they will have Tinoni watches, translator radios, and then the biscuits such as Huntley and Plummer's Mary biscuit, Jacob cream crackers, perfumes like London Light, for 7-Eleven cologne, the razor blades, Tiger balms, all this that they would have it sold here. So it's like a stop, you know, where people would want to buy everything before they go back to India. So along the way, I documented what some of the young travelers back then have seen is they have seen bicycles, they have seen people buying perfumes, nylon saris, Japanese silks, you know, baby clothes, radios. They have seen all that. Cigarettes, especially, were actually brought into the ship. So we can see that highly people buy all these tiny things to be brought back to India. And also one of the most crucial thing that people would buy would be the gold chains, bracelet, rings. So we can see that those time, patters or those goldsmith was a very important trade in Penang. You can see a straight rows of patters. They would actually normally will be in small like the Ottukade shop like this, the one on your left hand side upper, on my left hand side upper, there will be actually small space, and will be like 1 or 2 people doing it. Very small space, enough to sometimes some of them would sleep there itself, some of them would have their workers to sleep there. There were actually many patters, goldsmith doing that. You know, those days people would like to, they don't have much of entertainment, so they have a lot of golds being purchased. So they had a lot of goldsmith there. People who work, they want to go back, they actually said, oh, this is done in Penang, the patter in Penang. But largely a lot of patter came from India. But Penang had a lot of goldsmiths who were doing all the ornaments, beautiful ornaments here. Another thing that I noticed that we don't explore, or we don't talk, we don't notice will be the coconut. So actually Penang had a lot of sales of coconut stall around Little India and also other parts of Penang, because there were a lot of plantations and estates owned by the Chettiars and Chinese in the mainland. So this coconut stall actually plays a crucial role. Actually the heat, after the workers who come in, they want to reduce the body heat, they actually buy a lot of coconut. This is fairly not documented. Along my oral documentation, oral history documentation, that's how I realized actually there were a lot of coconut stalls which we did not capture the importance of it. Okay, money changer. were larger, is still controlled by the Indian Muslim community, and still is controlled by the community as well. So you can see they did not have the fixed premise like this when they started. They actually had a jacket on it, and they had a lot of pockets with different kind of currency. So after that, they will go to the ports, where multinational people coming, a lot of range of people coming. They say, change money, change money, change money. That's how the money changer business have developed over a period of time. Now, if you go along the Masjid Kapitan Keling, it's largely you can see the whole stretch of money changer and also gold retailers. So, but still, this business is largely dominated by the Indian Muslim community. The next will be the songkok maker. He's one of my favorite. A lot of customers, a lot of people actually buy songkok from him. So he's strategically located next to Nagur Dargah. Why I say it's my favorite is he's a very humble person. Another thing is he exports his songkok to wide range of people. So here is Little India. One of the people who goes for Hajj pilgrimage actually would come and buy the songkok from here. So you can see the connectivity. Little India is not only about Hinduism, but it's also about creating a coexistence with other religions like Hindu, Muslims, Jains, and other kind like Chinese who have been there. Okay, this is the trade that largely dominated by the Mukulutur clan. This is the milk business. So they had largely the milk business in Penang was dominated by two large people, were the Mukulutur clan, and now others will be the Punjabis. So you can see here the annual general meeting of the Milk Association. So this association will largely this association is located still there in Dato Kramat. So there was a huge settlement around Dato Kramat area, which they had the streets of milkmen and also gingerly oil production village. That now is no more. There's only the milk association and the restaurant called Paul Sangam, which is owned by this milk association. So this trade largely they would have their milk or the farm around the areas of Dato Kramat called Palanitan, Kampung Buah Pala, which is outer skirts of which was in Gulugor. But they will come and distribute the milk to the community, they had a larger customer in Little India. Largely the Indians, the shops were there. Similarly to the banana leaves distributor, they also had a lot of distributor coming from Balik Pulau. In town area, they had it in Rajaji Mudukul, Lorong, near to the Lorong Akui Street. They said there were actually some plantations, banana trees were actually used to get the leaves for the community, especially the banana leaf for the eatery in Little India. So this is one of my interesting picture that you have. If you see at the far end, next to the far end, the man is standing. There's a girl running. The boy in stripes. He is the boy. He is the person that you are seeing here. The fully grown. He's now like 40 plus, nearly 50 age old. So the boy in stripes at the far end was taken when he was about 4 to 5 years old. He was in Little India. Mostly, and now he's in the butcher. He's taken over the butchery of his grandfather and father with his sister now. So largely, the trades in Little India is passed down from grandfather to son, grandfather to for the son from the father to son, and then sometimes from grandfather to grandchildren. So it's normally a trade that been passed on. And this butchery shop is quite interesting. They had a lot of butchery shops in Little India, and most of them doesn't sell beef. This is actually till to now, if you go along the restaurants along the Queen Street, you will not see anyone selling beef. This is a very important appreciation that we can give to the Muslims as a point of respecting the people in the Hindus in Little India. It shows that how you can coexist by respecting each other. So this is a very important point, where they don't sell beef as a point of respecting the Hindus community there. So Little India is not only about eatery shop. There's many layers, and this is one of the most important aspect which actually create coexistence of the place, the community. We'll move on to the community. The Sindhis. So the Sindhis were largely the communities that originated from Sindh province, located in Pakistan, and Hindus. They had a lot of businesses, largely in the textile businesses. Okay, the Tamils, the Tamil Muslim, the Tamil Hindu, and the Tamil Christians. So the Tamil Muslims were largely actually contributed to a lot of development. So the Tamil Muslims are also called as Marekas, Rauters, Tenkasi, and Pate Muslim. So these are also ways that people will do narrations of how the Muslim has been seen. They have contributed a lot to the development from terms of language, food, within the Little India, especially in Penang. Next is the Muharram festival. Muharram festival is a very important festival, actually, because you see, Muharram festival is done by the Jawi Peranakan people. Jawi Peranakan people who are the local, the Indians who get married with the local. So this is called, the board they are carrying is called tabuts. Normally the convicts will carry the tabuts. So Muharram normally was celebrated by the Muslims, largely the sepoys, where they will be given 10 days off to celebrate this festival. So this is much related to the red flag and white flag society. The Tamil Muslims and then the rituals. So Arjumun Himayatullah Islam Kalvi Pala Saleh, it was a school for the Muslims. And next will be Nagur Dargah. Nagur Dargah is a very important place where it started its establishment in early 19th. So that time there was not any Hindu temples around. So a lot of the convicts was said in records that they would go here to pray, because Nagur Dargah was also in India for people to pray. So they had this attachment of Indian attachment there. Muslim Merchant Society was the first merchant society in Malaysia. It was established the formal documentation says 1912, but a lot of people claim it was established in 19th. So it's whilst different, but this was the first merchant association registered in Malaysia. So Kanda, as we can say, the Muslims have contributed a lot to the Kanda, Nasi Kanda, Apaya Kanda. There's a lot of Kanda, which means carrying the food was done. And they also had a lot, like Mira Sabib. They were one of the pioneers who actually sell spices, import and export spices. What I like about Mira Sabib is they don't, being a Muslim business, they also support other like festivals, like my family for Thaipusam. They give us on credit first. They say if you can pay later, it's for the God, you are doing good job. They don't see religion as a breaker, you know. They said it's okay, we're doing for people, you're serving food, we can pay later. So that was very the spirit that they have there is actually totally different. You cannot see on your normal eyes, you know. Dawood, is one of the most interesting. Dawood have put Nasi Kanda on map. So if you look at the pictures, if you look at the rooftop party, they had like two levels, the rooftop. So a lot of people from RF would come, especially from the mainland, would actually Butterworth would come, and weekends you can see a lot of people partying in RF. So they have actually put, they were very, very famous. And then they were so famous, and they are the only business in Little India that had a neon light. And then if you can see this lower picture, push carts. So these push carts, the one, were used by largely the Indian Muslim to go around the Indian enclave to sell food. Other than a kanda business, they used to sell air bandung, payas, and also nasi kanda. Slowly the kanda business have developed, and they have moved into the push cart services. So Kawali is a very unique kind of features, where they had Malam will be done by the Muslim League Association largely. Malam 27 is a very interesting point for the Muslims to celebrate. You can see how much of food being distributed. You can see how much. So this doesn't only serve the Muslim. We can see wide range of people coming in and also having meal with the Muslim. So it creates a lot of unity, which we cannot see in normal days. The Kandori festival, largely for the Nagur Dargah. Here you can see a lot of other religion people, the Malays, sometimes you can see Chinese coming to Nagur Dargah, getting this air jumpy when you're sick, getting blessings for it. So this Nagur Dargah and Kandori festival, which is a flag festival, is actually festival for all, not only for Muslims. The Hindu Tamils, largely the Hindu Tamils were from the Hindu Mahajana Sangam. So they from the Welki waterfront, the Panchayat system. The Teve system was a very important system where they actually was served as a community service. When you have a problem, when your family having a problem, you cannot get money. So they will have a teve where they will cook for all the people, and these people will come and eat. So under the banana leaf, they will put certain amount of money so that as a contribute to your problem, in a financial problem. So this the waterfront workers has actually a system called the Thunder. Thunder is the one who keeps the records of everything with the help of the Kanakupillai. So this shows the record of the Tongkang workers, the waterfront workers there. And also Padukara Teru. So this is streets of boatsmen. So the King Streets were called as Padukara Teru. So to show that a lot of people were actually there. So there were also Natukoste Chettiars, the Bottle Chetti, and the Kottekaran. Kuttukade normally referring to the people who worked into the pots. Natukotte Chettiar were largely the financer. The Vaishya, Ira Vaishya were actually the Bottle Chettis. So the Chettiars will always have the Koil Vidu, which means you can see in Penang Street, there's a Koil Vidu. Katangi is normally where Raj have their business. They normally is like 2 stories and 3 stories. And Nagara Virudi. Nagara Virudi is actually a very important icon for money lending business, where you will see where the Chettiars will actually put the rate for their business, money lending business interest rate in Nagaravidi. They would have a discussions and everything over here. Normally it's only RM2 per night, so they would have a different resting area for men and women. So was largely exclusively for the Chettiars, but not only for the Chettiars. We can say that they actually Chettiars are open to other communities if you have gained their royal and trust. So Dato Pandian was not a Chettiar, but since he have gained, the father have gained, he was the caretaker of the Nagaravidi. Attakavadi is a very important icon to the community, because this is actually carried, the weight would be 100 to 200 kilo, would be 100 kg. So normally this was done during Taipusam to test the power, ability of the workers who have worked in port, how much they can carry. So Attakavadi is very unique to Penang, because only the port workers who can carry 100 kilos of commodity or the badges, they could carry this. So this is not found anywhere except for Penang. The Tamil Christians community have actually contributed a lot to the Little India outside. So we had the first Tamil school in Tamil convent school, but it was closed in Penang. And now the villages who were the Francis Xavier Church has its own Tamil settlements, were closed in 1909. So it was very sad. And so within the Little India area, there was a church street where the first Catholic church was established. Okay. Gujaratis have actually had a lot of migration here. So when the Gujarati had a lot of migrations, they actually had, they were into a lot of betel nuts business, as we spoke later before this. So they were actually a lot of kojas, voras, and we can see HS Bhat, Kantila. They were largely imported into the spices business. So the Gujaratis actually started the first day. If you can see on my left hand side would be the Ramakrishna Ashramam. So the Gujarati later was turned into a Ramakrishna Ashram. It's a very big orphanage in Penang. A lot of people would actually, it's a very, one of the oldest orphanage also. Actually, it was started by the Gujarati. So they contributed in a sense. So since time is running out, I have to rush up. The Indian Chamber of Commerce also were started by them. They actually pioneered the Chamber of Commerce establishment in Penang. The Punjabis, one of the most important things, the Punjabis would be the significance. They can see the statues carved out as a symbol of royalties and trust in a lot of Chinese cemeteries. So you can see last time in the Mahamariman temple, they had a pair of Gurkhas, Punjabi statue, and then later it was demolished, to show that how important were they to the community. They really protected the community from fights, a lot of riots. So to show their appreciation, there was actually a statue, and it was taken down in 1918's renovation. The Malayalis. One of the most important things in the Malayalis would be they were very good builders. They built a lot of things like Makam, Nordin, police headquarters, the temples in Ayeta, Mahamariman temples, and they were actually very good builders. We also have a road called Jalan Malbari in Penang. The Telugu community was largely in estate, but there was a press called Sri Rama Press along Lebok Chulia. So this was the place for establishment of the Telugu Association in here. So a lot of discussion have taken place here. So where later it contributed to the establishment of Telugu Association in Penang. The INA involvements. So what we cannot see is the involvement of people, the local Malaysians, to INA. So actually, if you look at the building along Beach Street, this Joshua dispensary. It actually, the second floor actually served as the INA involvement, INA office during the British time. So it says like Indian Independence Movement Fund. So they had a lot of people contributing to the fund. This is one of the example how the local people actually contributed to it. So the left hand picture shows the people. He's actually one of the active members of the Hindu Sangam who enrolled himself to be a soldier for the INA movement. And then this is also to show the Indian politics where Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi's visit in 1997. This was from the Gujarati album where he met with the Gujaratis and also some of the Sindhis members. Next would be the local politics also had a lot of Little India's involvement, especially this photo was taken in Dawood. So Arumugam Pillai Rautar, Mr. Rautar is the tallest one. He was the one who's dominating the port businesses those days, meeting Wang Paoni. So a lot of discussions of local politics have taken place in Little India. Okay, I think we are time's up. There's a lot of things that I would like to share, but I think we will move on to the question and Q&A section.
Thank you very much, Preveena. That was a very informative talk. I'm sure there's tons more to talk about. So as we've got only an hour plus, we'll move into the question and answers right now. So the first question is from G. Balakrishnan, and he wants to know if Masjid Bengali and Masjid Kadainalur still exist today.
Masjid Bengali still exists. Kadainalur is an association. It's still there. You can. It's still there. If you Google out from Persatuan Kadainalur, you still can find a lot of information over there.
Okay, that's very good. The next question is actually a compilation of various questions that relate to this one topic, you know, and many people, including Balakrishnan, Dini, and let's see, there's another person, Maganjit Kaur. They want to know about the people who came into Little India. Do records exist? Can someone go and find where these people are? I mean, records of these people, and where would they go from here?
Oh, it's actually a complicated, because Penang did not have a proper records like Singapore, like South Africa, you know, all these things. Penang did not. Malaysia largely, we don't have the records. Very few were recorded. So for us to track back, it is quite difficult. Even I find it very difficult to track back unless they had a personal contact with their homeland attachment. Other than that, it's difficult to get trace those records back, you know. World War II have damaged a lot of records as well.
Well, one participant, Chitra, she's focused on the Chithambaram. Now, the Chithambaram is a, you know, fairly well-known shipping company. Yeah, so is it possible to get records from them?
I don't think so, because I think if you go back to the first slides that I've given, the Shipping Corporation of India, possible they would have records, but I will have I don't give much assurance of the list of passengers who came in. I know there's a lot of people are very passionate asking about, they want to track down who came back, when did their grandfather came down. But sadly in Malaysia, especially in Penang, we don't have a proper records, which makes it difficult for us to track who came early, who came later. You know, that tracking part is very difficult.
But worst comes to worst, you can always try Google, right?
I don't think there's any Google. These are like really hardcore records, you know.
Records, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because their company, their organization, they're not like, you know, like we do not have like ordinance book records that we need to register the publications there. We did not have it. So these were company records, which depends largely on the company's initiative or how they keep their records.
I see. Another participant, Dini, she wants to know, or rather her question relates to the convicts who came from India. So she feels that if they were convicts, they were convicted to British laws. And,
yes, largely yes.
Yeah, so if they were convicts under British law, the criminal records of these people would still exist, would they?
Yeah, some of them would exist if you go back and check. So that is the part, the recording parts, it's actually still blur, go back to it. Because I'm still also, some of the cases are still recorded. For example, we have a famous case called Rani Dobi, who's a pioneer establishment of the Dobi record, Dobi settlement, which came with the contingent bazaar. Later, she died in the custody. She was a very famous woman. To get even that record is so difficult for us. So there would be chances of these convicts records would be recorded in the British archive, and some scholars do argue that these convicts were actually were not convicts, they were the freedom fighters. Largely, if you look at the Bengalis and the Punjabis who came in, these were the people who went against the British, in those days. The fight was so fairly documented. So they were not actually convicts or criminal who actually committed really criminal records, but could be the people who have fought for the independence of India. So there are still debates on this. Who are these people actually?
So Dini also touched upon the idea or the notion that some of these indentured laborers and convicts that came to Penang or Little India were actually slaves. So would you consider this whole history of Little India one about slavery as well?
50% of it, because we don't have a proper records to show. But I have done researches on the urban from the estate side. So for me, that was more of a slavery, even though they call it an indentured labor. So in Penang Port City, the city was a bit different. The environment was a bit different. The access was a bit different. The exposure was different. You see, they were more of it's a port city where it was not hidden. So you can see anything happens to the workers, there's a lot of other communities who can stand up for you. But when it goes to the estate area, it was like, you're caged in a space where you don't have contact with other people. So I think that kind of slavery would have actually happened in the estates, not in the port area. Port was like more to the international standards, where they try to reduce all this kind of slavery item. They try to be more open. But in estates, I have even read records where the laborers were left to die on the road because they were not given a medical access. Because when you're sick, you have to report to the British authority. So you have to tell them why they were sick, how come this had happened, a lot of procedure. In order to avoid that, what these plantations owners or the Kanganis or the people would do is take them out, they will be half dead, leave them by the roadside and die. So one of the records I've showed the people who have survived, half dead, somebody was driving through, he have actually saved him, give him to hospital and interviewed him, and saying that why was he lying down the road. So he explained the whole situation. So from there we can see actually indentured labor slightly we can say it was more to the slavery.
Thank you. Balakrishnan also asked about or rather commented that there could have been political activists who were exiled to Penang. Do you have any records of those?
I don't have records of those, but I can say that these were the people who were exiled. Some of them were political activists. Were political activists. We can say that because they were Marudu brothers were the famous people who actually were exiled to Penang. So we can see a lot of people who were exiled to Penang. There will be high chances were the political activists or the
I see.
political refugees that we can say. But the problem is there's no proper documentation where these people go. These people, because there were 6 types of convicts that it was documented. These convicts married the local. They didn't wanted to have their past life, or did they go back to fight? So these are the records were still not visible, not available for researchers.
Okay, we've got maybe 2 more questions. One relates to, do you have records to show or to suggest that Penang's Little India sort of is related to other establishments like Bojang Valley, the Kadaram Empire, Malacca? I guess so. I guess it is about Indian migration, isn't it?
Yeah, might so, but we can't say that there was a clear connections. Maybe there's a gray area, but for me, is personally this is a modern day migration. Where people have migrated. So there's a lot of claims saying that. Records saying that these people have come from Kadaram when it was closed, they migrated in. But to look at the records, Chulias, they were always trading in textile. The Chulias, the Indian Muslims, have a long establishment, which we can claim that they could come from Kadaram from there. But other than that, I think largely the Indians, the Tamils, were largely from the modern day migration, largely.
Yeah, okay. Second last, from Anna Saupakiam, she wants to know more about Kawali, the festival. Is it on the 27th?
It's a festival, it's a music done.
Okay.
Largely it's done in the Muslim League. I wanted to cover that. It's largely, can see if you go back to Kawali. Let me go back. It's taking some time.
There's lots of slides.
Yeah.
When you want to find something, it's always hard.
Oh yes, this is the one.
Yeah.
So it's like a more of a community. And normally it would be held in the Muslim League associations or compartments. So one of the quite established place in Little India, where this is done. So it's actually they would call it as the a part of the Muslim community. But when it comes to Little India, what is so unique is it's not Muslim, it's not Hindus, it's not Tamils. So everybody from India would come together because they have the community and the homeland attachment. You see, they would have done it in India by a Muslim group. So when they come to Penang, hey, I've seen this in my hometown. So they come and join it, So you can see tabela, which largely the South Indians are the Indians are musical instruments. So all this is like more of the place identity with attachment to the homeland.
Great. Okay, so we got the last question. It's from me. Have you done have you or someone else done a comparative study of all the little Indias in Malaysia or Mauritius and other parts?
Singapore, yes, we have done. One of the teammates have done. Singapore, one of the establishment that they have would be the one of the highest is the Indian Community Center. So that is their strength because they have a center there and everybody would come. So it gives a future to Little India there. But here is we are still doubtful if the businesses are not there, the trades are not there. How can we recognize the identity of the India? If you go to in other places, Little India in the Western company is still fresh. The layers of it is the modern day migration or the IT people, the new age migration. But here in Penang, the layer, because this was one of the first ports was established by the British. So there are many layers of the story. What I told you is maybe the most outer layer. But there's a lot of layers if you go in the caste discriminations, how people establish in a house. In one house, there will be Muslim, Christians, Hindus will be staying together. They were so harmonized. Even till now, also Masjid Kapitan Galibs, during Puasa time, they will distribute Nombu Kanji, which is consumed by all religion people. So if you go down a bit more, if you go more down further, you'll see a lot of shared values, unity there, So I feel like if you go to Myanmar, if your temples there, there's still Dhobi Ghats. There were Dhobi Ghats there. There were Chettias temples there, but the life of it is the original point of view. You cannot see it anywhere else except for in Penang. That's how I look at it. In India, there's big fields. Klang, there is big fields, but for me is when I come to Penang, I can maybe because I'm born and raised here. Maybe I can feel the closeness of the society, because Klang also have been a huge port for the large people's migration coming to Malaysia, but there's also a large migrations that took place in Klang. But from Penang was one of the earliest establishment, So for me, when I look at it, one of the earliest, one of the oldest. So establishments you can see like Nagur Dargah, Hindu Mahamariman temple, the church establishment, the Masjid Kaling. All these were actually it shows the identity is fairly well preserved. Yeah.
Excellent. So thank you so much, Preveena.
Okay.
So we'll move on to some other housekeeping slides after this. And so
thank
you. Yep. So I'll move that to there. Okay. So this is to all the participants. Badan Warisan Malaysia is the premier NGO for built heritage in Malaysia, and we now have a special deal for students. We're trying to increase our student membership. So for this coming year, we will waive the $50 entrance fee. So if you're a student of any discipline in any university or college or anywhere, you can join us at 20 ringgit only. This is very well worth it. And Badan Warisan membership has a lot of benefits. There's talks, there's events. We've got a new program that's coming out very soon. So I urge everyone, not only students, but others as well, to join us. And we also like those who would like to contribute funds or donations to help us, because we are self-funding. We don't get any help from the government or any other governmental organization. So if you can, please donate, and it will really help us. Or, like I said, become a member. So that brings us to the end of today's webinar. I'd like to take this opportunity to, first of all, thank Preveena for a very informative and knowledgeable talk. I'd like to thank Duncan and Donnie from Think City. Donnie has been amazing with all his help on technical matters. The president of Badan Warisan Malaysia, Lim Wei Ling. Our general manager, Vanessa Lung. Shuhada and Rosmiza from Badan Warisan Malaysia, who have been instrumental in organizing this talk series. And finally, I'd like to thank everyone, all of you who have taken a Saturday afternoon afternoon to come and join us and to listen to this fascinating talk. So thank you very much. Have a great weekend. That's it. Bye-bye.